That was delicious. Oh, hey everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Tim Totten, and today on the video, I'm going to show you how to make a kitchen boa. This is a scarf that goes around your neck with towels on the end, so you can clean up, you can dry your hands, you have something to help take large, heavy things out of the oven when they're warm, but make sure you use cotton. I'll go over that near the end of the video. But this is so much fun to do. In fact, I saw this first on the Notches Sewing channel, and that sewing channel is so great. You need to watch it. Down in the video description below, and if you're on mobile, you just click on the title of this video. Right underneath the video, there's like words. You click on that and it'll pop open a description, and in there is a link to the Notches Sewing video. I made a few changes to her design for me, things that I felt work a little better for how I want to do them. But also, I went ahead and made the neck thinner, which is something she talks about in her video that you can do, and sort of talked about how you would do it. I went ahead and showed you how to do it because I think it helps to see it visually. And this sort of changes it a tiny bit. It won't hurt you to go do her version because her version is great. You should watch her channel anyway because the videos are awesome. But if you want to do my version, why don't you come down to the cutting table and I'll show you what we need to do to get started. So to make this kitchen boa, kitchen scarf, you're gonna need a couple things. You're gonna need a towel, a hand towel for the kitchen. This was 2 for $2 at Ollie's, but I've also gotten them for $1 at the dollar store. Actually at Dollar General. Dollar Tree is not even $1 anymore. It's a little more. I need a coordinating fabric. Now, because this red is not exactly the same as this red, I'm gonna use a little bit of black fabric trim to kind of bridge that over a little bit. I think it'll look cute. So I just have a little piece of black batik there. You're gonna need something to cut with, you know, little snips and some pins. So the first thing we're gonna do is open up our towel and just clip off anything that might mess with it. I'm gonna take this tag off. I don't think anyone needs to know that it's a 100% cotton, and I'm not gonna rip the tag off of this. If you do that, you might rip the threads out and then have to stitch it again. It's a dollar towel. It's not made that great. Let's go over to the ironing board and then I'll show you how to iron this into the right position. And I'd actually already been practicing on this. So I'm gonna come over and just iron it out flat. It really doesn't matter what size towel you use. You're gonna take the measurements off of your finished folded towel anyway. So I want this to sort of be the outside. I'm gonna fold it right sides together and just give myself that line all the way down. We're trying to fold this up into smaller pieces. So, and let me just zoom out and show you better how to use this. All right, so we've done that. I'm going to go ahead and flip this out to where it's the wrong side facing up. And on a towel, that's really not such a thing as a wrong side, but it's just the way the stitching is done. And then what I need to do is I need to fold basically into thirds. I need to get somewhere in the middle here and bring it up to the center, but you'll see it's not quite folded over enough. So I'm just trying to find the area that where if I bring it to that center, this one lines up. So if I line up there, pull out, get it back in the right position. Now that's if you want to do this type of pleat or fold on it. You could just fold it in thirds if you wanted. It won't be as small though. So that one works for me. I'll do the same thing on the other side, sort of go a third of it, and that's still gonna be too not far enough. Ooh. So I'm gonna go even further over. You can kind of do it by feel. You can kind of tell, oh, look at that. So that's giving me those, if you look at the end here, you're gonna have 3 layers on this side, 3 layers on that side. And I'll just go ahead and give this a nice little iron. Now the thing that I'm going to do a little differently here than you might see on other tutorials is I haven't cut this in half yet. I'm going to come along and do some measurements and some pinning. I'm going to mark with a pen and then I'm going to go to the sewing machine and stitch down both sides and cut through the middle. That way I don't have to do this 2 separate ways and I get this exact same measurement on either side. So I'm going to use my measuring grid here, and this thing is actually more than the 24, so I'll just even it up on both sides. And my grid is 24, so 12 would be the center. right there. And then that's sort of the line I'm going to cut on, so I don't care if I draw through this, right? Doesn't hurt my feelings, because you will never see it. There, and then I'm going to pin on either side of that to hold the parts together, and I'll stitch down that line. So here's some pins, and I'm not going to put it on the actual stitching line because, well, that's not the stitching line, that's the cutting line. But I also have to come back far enough that I can, leave room to stitch on the side. Just enough to hold it together. I mean, I'd have to do this if I cut it in the beginning, so it's easier to do it now. And I have tried doing this the other way in a failed video that I spent an hour making and realized it wasn't very good. So I'm doing this video again, and I found several things to do better. So you're lucky that I am so dedicated to making good content that I said I can't do it this way. I have to take it and make it better. All right, we're going to do the sewing machine and stitch on either side of that line and then cut it in half. Come with me to the sewing machine. So here we are at the sewing machine, and I've got that pinned together. And I'm just going to give it a stitch, not even 1/4 of an inch on either side of that black line. And I don't even have to back up or back stitch. It's all going to get caught in the stitching later because we're going to put that other fabric on it. I'm kind of holding these pieces together. And then turn around and go the same on the other side. All right, so I've stitched on either side of that. And you could use a rotary cutter, or you can just grab a pair of scissors and go right through that. It doesn't have to be exact. So I will just go right along that line and cut. And now we have our two pieces. Let me go ahead and take these pins out because I don't quite need them here. And we're going to measure how wide one of these is. It's actually about 5.5 inches wide, actually. 5.5 inches wide. So I have gotten a piece of fabric from the fabric store, and I had them cut it 1/3 of a yard, which is 12 inches wide. You'll see that here, about 12 inches wide. So if I folded that in half, you'll see how that's wider than the fabric here, which is good because I needed it a little bit wider. I'm going to take this over to the ironing board and show you how we put these pieces together, and we'll use the black fabric here as well. I'm going to go ahead and lay out this piece of fabric that's 12. And what I'm going to do, it's 12 inches by the full width of the bolt, which is 22 inches on the bolt, 44 inches off of the bolt. And I will just take it and lay it all out with the right side up. Give it a quick press just to get that seam out of there in advance. And then I'll fold it along the edge. I don't have to be exact because I'm going to cut this in a minute to the exact size that I need, or closer to the exact size that I need. So the fact that it didn't get cut quite straight at the store is fine, because I'm going to cut it exact using this line that I've ironed in. All right. So what I know is this is going to nest in, and I need enough of a seam allowance on the side. So what I'm going to need is, and I'll get you closer to this, is I'm going to need about 5 3/4 on this. I've lined up at the end down there. 5 3/4 for my seam. So I will cut this. Yours may be different. You may have made this the width of this piece, the width of your towel might be only 4 inches, and therefore you wouldn't need 6 inches or 5 3/4. So what I will do is go over to the machine or over to my cutting board and cut this off 5 3/4, and I'll just trim off these salvage edges at the end. All right, let's go do that. So here we are. The first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and trim off these ends, and I will use the folded edge down here at the bottom as my straight line to line up the bottom of the fabric. So that piece gets trimmed off. And this is not an exact project, so I don't really mind if it's not exactly, 20 or 40 something inches, 40 inches or 28 or however far your fabric will get you. Because it's going to, my point is a 1/2 inch is not going to make the difference. Then I will go ahead and properly line this up, lining up the folded edge here. Line that up nice and pretty. And then I will line my ruler up. Now here's what's fun about this ruler. Along the top, it has measurements: 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, 4 inch, 5 inch. Or it goes from the other side and it adds a 1/2 inch. So it's 1 1/2, 2 1/2, 3 1/2. Well, there's not a 5 3/4 on here that's marked already. So I'll go 5, and then, to 5, to 5 1/2, and over to 5 3/4. I'm going to line that line up with the edge. So that line gets lined up with that folded edge. I've got 5 3/4 lined up. I'm going to straighten out my fabric because it's not as straight as I would like it. Then I'll cut along the edge. Now our next step is going to be to open. Let me get you closer for this one. Is to open up the end of this fabric. Now we've opened this up and you can see that the fold is in there. I'll even put in a pin so we can all see where that is. The fold of that fabric is right there. And I'm going to come in, and since this fabric doesn't have a side, and this doesn't have a side, I will just lay that in there to that corner fold. This edge to that corner fold. And fold it over till it lies flat again. And then I'll just go ahead and pin in close to the end here. And maybe do 1 or 2 more pins. Just to make sure it's held in there. So that's all sandwiched in, held in tight. And I'm only going to sew about halfway when I put it together because I need to be able to get this out of the way and sew the other edge. Let me go to the other end and do the same thing, and then we'll go to the sewing machine. Important thing to remember is you're going to want to look to see here which way you did this one, so that you can do the other one. So what I did is I did with the folds at laying top. So just like this, I'd want these folds like this. You want to make sure that you don't have one this way and one that way if you're trying to match a pattern or something. So now that I've gotten that pinned, I can actually see where I would want to stitch this further along. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to put a pin, not through my actual towel, but right next to it, through the other fabric. And I'll do that on each end, because what that's gonna let me do is then sew all the way down the edge here to the other end, and then sew across the top here completely. What I am gonna do also is I'm gonna go in and find the center of this and give myself a pin a couple of inches on either side so that I know where to leave a hole to turn it inside out. So I actually got really far along and realized I didn't even like the black fabric I had chosen and forgotten to put it in. So I'm gonna delete all of that and come back to making this black fabric we need. I need some 3-inch pieces, 2 of them. I'm just gonna straighten the edge up here on this fabric I'm using right now. And this is gonna get folded and put into the seam that we're gonna put when we actually sew the towels into the fabric. So I'm gonna go and just iron this super quick in half and come right back. All right, I have those ironed, and in fact, I put a little 1/4-inch stitch on them just to cheat to keep that tube together. And actually what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come in here. I'm gonna stitch it really quick to the edge here as well, just to make sure that it properly stays on, and then I can trim. So I'll do the iron right now. No, at the sewing machine right now. Come on over there. So again, I'm just trying to tack this on so it doesn't go anywhere. You know what? Too often this stuff walks and moves, and so rather than worrying about pinning it, I can do this just as fast. And this will look really cute when it's done. I'll show you a couple different things you can do with it. And then of course it's too wide, so I just come in and find the measurement on the side of with the other fabric. Trim that off, really easy. Right here, see? I can just trim that little bit of fabric off so that they line up together. And if it's not perfect, it doesn't hurt me. That side's done, I'll do the other side now. All right, back here at the table, I can lay this out, and I'm gonna put my towel right here on the edge. And I'd rather you see this a little closer. So I'll put my towel right here on the edge, and I'm putting the towel into that fold where it folds over, so that when I fold it over and match these 2 edges over here, see this? My towel's trapped in there. And I'm gonna go ahead and pin that towel into place from the halfway point back. Clips would be great here if you wanna get, I don't wanna get my clips out. I know where they are. They're tucked away. They're in a box up on a shelf, and frankly, I don't wanna get them. So I'm gonna use pins, although clips would be much better here. Okay, I didn't go all the way to the edge here because I actually need to sew this seam down without the towel in the way. So I'm actually gonna push the towel out of the way and sew that seam together. But to figure out where that seam needs to go, I need to mark that with a pin. And I will do that here. I will come along and not putting the pin through the towel, but just through the fabric on the back, I'll mark where that needs to go. So that when I go to my sewing machine with this fabric tucked out of the way, I can then start sewing that together. Okay? That measurement, and I'll give it a little measurement so I make sure exact when I'm at the machine. So that's gonna go together. In fact, I'll just put a pin or 2 in it so that we all feel happy about that. Oh, there's a pin in there. I need to do the same thing on the other side, remembering which side I put the fold of the towel on. So the fold of the towel is going on this side. So I'll lay it out flat so I get the exact same shape, and knowing that I need to put the fold of the towel against this fabric now. So flat side of the towel, folded side of the towel. Folded side goes down, go all the way up to the top with that. And then, ooh, and I dropped you over. Sorry about that. Okay, I folded it over. And now I have the towel in there just like I did before. I'll line all these fabrics up at the top. Now, if you want to do more like, as I said in the intro, there's a great video by Notches Sewing. She does an amazing job. So like, if you want to follow hers, please be my guest. Go do exactly what she does. I'm just doing a little differently the way the the seam goes in. She does hers in the middle, and I think it makes it difficult to fold it like I'm gonna do later and show you an adjustment that I made to mine, which she suggests but doesn't quite show you exactly how to do. I think it's necessary, so that's why I'm doing a full video to show you how to do it. All right, and then again, the same way we did before, I need to find where how much needs to come off, where my seam allowance is gonna be over here to make that nice and tight. So let me fold all of that fabric out of the way. Now I know how big that is. And I can go to the sewing machine. Now the only other thing I need to do is I need to come in here and lay this out flat and sort of find the center of this item, right? So I'm gonna fold it in half, and now I have the center. I'm gonna put some pins about 2 or 3 inches in on either side of where the fabrics are, the open seam is, because when I sew, I need to leave a space to turn this inside out. And it's gonna get completely caught in a seam later that I do for the neck area, so it's not gonna hurt anything when we do it. All right, let's go to the sewing machine, and I'll stitch all the way down to that pin, stop, jump to that pin, and sew all the way down again. All right, as you can hopefully see, I am ready to go. My seam allowance is about a 10 millimeter on my machine, so I'll take that out. I could set my guide on my machine, but I'm really good at seeing that, so I don't have any problem doing it. If you don't feel comfortable, then definitely put your seam guide on. It's such a useful tool. And you see that trapped those layers of fabric up in there. Make sure your towel is pushed out of the way. And remember, we're sewing down until we reach the first of those pins, and I'm gonna back up, take the pin out, skip all of this. And if you wanted, you could do it from here back, or you can flip over and start at the other end of the fabric where the towel was, which I think that needs to be more properly secured, so I'm gonna go there. On that end, it's a little more than a 10 on my seam guide, so I'm gonna make sure I start a little more and then get to the 10 millimeter because I want it to be relatively even all the way down. That would be really important if you were using a fabric that had lines and stuff on it. You'd wanna be a little more careful. And again, we're gonna sew down to that pin that I put in, and I did back stitch a few times to make sure it's pretty secure. I'm gonna be putting my hand through there and pulling fabric through this hole that we've left, and I wanna make sure. The last thing I need to do is go and sew across these, so I'm going to reach in there and push that fabric back over and flatten it out now, so all of that's flat across, so I can now stitch across. And I will use a much wider, almost a 1/2 inch stitch here. I can take my pins out. So that's now all been caught in there, and my seam is up the edge. You see it caught all of those layers. I'll do the same on the other side. Again, make sure that where that fabric is rolled out of the way, that you flatten it back out so everything is sort of pancaked back out. Maybe stick your finger in there and make sure it's all flattened. And then I can come back and using my bigger seam allowance, like I said, 1/2 inch. Now remember, I cut those 3-inch pieces of black and folded them in half to 1.5 inches, and now I'm cutting off 1/2 inch. So I'm gonna get a little 1-inch line of fabric in there. See here, that'll be inside as a nice, as a little bit of a nice, you know, border edge. The only other thing I'm gonna do is gonna cut out some of this bulk fabric right here, because as this folds inside out, that's gonna have to go somewhere and it's gonna make this bulge a little bit. So I'll take a pair of scissors and come in and just kind of cut close to the stitching, but not right at it. See what I did there? So there's not as much bulk. And we're gonna be stitching over this again to make sure that it's really held in from the other side, you know, to top stitch it. So again, I'm not really worried. It's not gonna be bad at all. All right, let's go to the cutting table and turn this inside out. So here we are at the cutting table. I'm gonna put my hand in and grab that towel and just turn it inside out. Oh, look at that. Look at that, isn't that cute? And then that little bit of fabric will turn up because that's how I stitched it in. See here? So it turns up there. Gives us a cute little edge almost, and we can stitch that down if we want, or leave it open. I think it'll look better stitched down, so I'll do that. I'll just reach in the other end and do the other one. Get my hand in there until I get the towel. Yeah, and look at that, how that's all put together. Now, there are some things you can do a little differently here. Like you could just come in and lay this out flat. See, I'm gonna come in and just, I'll come here and just straighten it all out, just iron it out nice and flat, and then that would be it. But this is a little uncomfortable to put on your neck, actually. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead into the iron and just press it flat. And then I'm gonna come back, and I just realized that I completely did these wrong. It's supposed to be, it's supposed to go like this to where you have one flat, and I put one in backwards. Still, after all that work that I did to get it right, I put one in backwards. Well, I don't think it looks terrible, but you might want to do a little better job with your own. But again, this is a little wide to go around your neck. It's a big wide thing on your neck. So I'm gonna go and iron this flat so that this seam along the side is nice and flat. And you could just stitch all this down, but we're gonna come along and do a fold in the middle, which I'll show you, and that will help us to make this a little bit smaller around your neck and give it a little more design. Let's go to the iron real quick. So here at the iron, I'm just gonna go ahead and lay this out flat and give it a good press. I'm actually using that line I had folded in before to get my halfway point to line this up straight. And then we can make sure we iron this properly. Now to get this center to close, this is a cotton fabric, so I'll put my iron here and I'm just gonna go to the other end and just pull it nice and tight and run my iron down that. And then I can look in and see, did they line up pretty well together? This is gonna get all enclosed in that neck piece we do, so I'm not even worried about how carefully it's done. You might wanna be a little more careful if it was something that someone would see more often, but we're not gonna see it. I'm gonna fold it over. Okay, this piece is ready. I have to find the center. I'm gonna pin on the center. I'm just gonna line these pieces up like this. I'm gonna put a pin in the center and then measure over 6 inches on either side. And I have my measurement. I'm gonna measure over 6 inches on either side and put in a pin so I know where to stop sewing. Okay, so this is the important part, so I show you. I'm going to open this up. And in fact, I'd rather put these pins on the non-folded side. I should have done it on the side that's the folded side, not the side that's got the that has the seam through it. Just the side that's folded. And I just need the two 6-inch measurements. I don't need anything else. I don't need the center. The center was just to find the 6 on either side. I'll show you why I'm doing that. Because when I fold this in, the other side's going to come over and the pins would be in the way. So let me take the pins off. So I'm going to do a little bit of a measurement. I'm going to try to get thirds. So I'll fold this over and then fold that over at the fold. But you see the problem is it's too wide. So this needs to come a little bit more. Does that feel like a third? It's getting close. Ooh, that's close. Go back a little more. There we go. I have a third right there. And I have a third on that one. So what I'm going to come do is give it a little press. And I might even just transfer the pin all the way through. Then what I'm going to come along and do is just give this a top stitch all the way in that area. And that'll hold this part together. And then what I can do with the other end, see here, once that's stitched together, well, I want to sort of angle this out so it looks really cute. So I'm just going to fold these things in to get to that point at the ends, like this. Now, if I wanted, I could come along and top stitch all the way to the ends. And in fact, you know what? I'm going to do that. I think it'll look cuter. So let me do the same thing on this side. Why I like this is that I can come in and stitch basically starting here, go down over this side, follow the line all the way up, over, down the other side, and come in. So let's do that at the sewing machine. So I am going to start where these edges come together. Actually, I can feel underneath where the line is. So in fact, I think I will start, I just have to pick a place. Well, let's start down here. I think I like how this is gonna look. So, well, you gotta put the presser foot down. So I'm just basically edge stitching all along that fabric, and I can feel it underneath. Now, you don't have to go this extreme. I just like to do things in a very convoluted way. I think you're gonna like it when you see what it looks like on the other side. So I'm not feeling bad about it, but I know that you could just do the area I showed you and we'd be fine. little easier to do this part because, as you can tell, we could actually see the line of that fabric. And actually, to finish this one, I'm going to go off and go from the other side because I think this is the side that's going to be visible. And I want to make sure that it gets caught. Now I have to trim a little fabric here because unfortunately some of it got caught in the... Oh, not happy about that. But that's... Let me do the prettier sides. That's how that looks. Let me show it to you actually full out. And here we go. I have finished sewing that with the two all the way down with the two towels on it. Look how cute that is. And I actually will, I'll show it to you on a person. So give me a moment. I'll turn around and turn the camera around and show it to you on me. All right, well, here it is. Here is that kitchen boa. Look how nice that looks. You actually get, I like the thinner area around the neck. I really hate that wider thing. And I like having folded these down so they weren't just extra, because now I'm wearing this and I can easily grab a towel. I can use this for, if you use cotton towels, by the way, don't use polyester, they would melt, but you could use this almost as a hot pad to take something hot out of the oven if you wanted to. I'd make sure you get thick towels for that purpose. And it looks pretty impressive. It's really nice. I can see somebody really enjoying having this in their kitchen. In fact, it's got little dogs on it, including little Boston Terriers. So maybe my mom will get this. My mother, who has 8 dogs now, this might work for her. All right, so that is how to make a kitchen boa or a kitchen scarf or a towel scarf or a towel boa. I can see this getting so much use. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like it, subscribe to the channel, and follow me for more content. All right, until next time, folks, stay crafty. Bye for now. Whew. That was a lot of fun, but a lot of work. Bye for now.